You. Of course, the dog gets up right now. About to witness the awesome, crushing might of apparently doing shows, especially since I am. This might be working. Those of you, please text me, let me know it's working. This is about 85. Frank Mir, MIR-HUNT, Hector Lombard. Yeah. But first, the words that say it all. Wait for it. I'm taking a real look at you, real good look at your face. Being paid back in full, always nothing. Anyway, that's Stigmata. It's Calling of the Just. The record is called Calling of the Just. The song is called Intro, All of Nothing. Revelation Records down on Huntington Beach. HB Strut, baby, they've got it. I almost bit the tip of my tongue, not using a mouthpiece of jiu-jitsu, so I'm sounding kind of mush mouth. The same kind of mush mouth that made 50 Cent rich. Okay, somebody just texted me that it's not working. Is it working now? How about that? Yeah, I'm hoping it should be working now. Text me again and I'll stop talking. And then I get 300 texts. It's not working, just stop talking. Nah, I think it's working now because it's no longer pixelated. Pretty much I have to have nothing else open but Google Hangouts, which is part of the Google strategy. So anyway, I'm hoping that you can see me. Otherwise, it's just me versus me. Anyway, UFC Fight Night, the occasion of which is, and I'm going to start right at the top because I know Kid Nate is an inconsistent listener to Knuckle Up. So I want to get the gloating happening early. Now, I talk about Team Sorrow, and I find that one of the most unusual things about the Sorrow Academy is that I describe it, it's like a pirate ship, you know? And the stuff that you do routinely at Team Sorrow, the Sorrow Academy, is stuff that at other places would get you kicked out. Now, there's a certain amount of leeway, you know, in your own BJJ school that you could do. You know, if you have a move where you're trying to get a guy in a Kimura, you know, that one where you're sitting on the side of his ear, you could say, teabag his face. Look, this is BJJ talk. Teabag his face so you can get the arm and crank it behind his back. It's just the way people talk. But at Sorrow Academy, we've raised it as part of the offshoot of EJJ. We've raised it to an extreme art that includes deep sarcasm, you know, bullying, as well as, you know, hurtful broadsides. These all fundamentally, you know, change the game. I was going against a black belt yesterday. He said to me, he goes, man, your balance sucks. I go, my balance doesn't, whip, swept. He goes, hey, your balance didn't suck, but I got you. I was like, oh, yeah. pretty much the kind of person that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu turns you into is not the kind of person that you really want to hang around a lot. In other words, totally insensate, insensitive, ignoring the rest of the world, and focused on a singular goal. Kind of like some of the presidential candidates, apparently. Anyway, this is, oh man, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put what knuckle up this is. Oh, well, the guy who just texted me that said that it's working, could you please let me know what knuckle up this is so I can talk about that at the, at the top of the hour? This is knuckle up round number, well, it doesn't matter because I want to get the gloating in the first 5 minutes. And the gloating has to do with my, you know, Kid Nate thought he had really Lucy Van Pelted me. He thought he really had Lucy Van Pelted me. He's like, look, every time I'm a gentleman and make the picks first and you pick the counter pick, you're doing okay. So I'm going to like demand that you do the picks first. And I said, okay, well, let's do that. You know, I'm magnanimous in victory. I'm magnanimous in defeat. Lie. And in other words, what I want to do right now is to, you know, honor, you're the host, I want to honor, so I'll make my picks. And I picked Steve Bossy, you know, professional hockey thing. This I dig. Nobody ever thought he would beat a James Tahuna. But I didn't have a lot of picks on this don't care card. Oh, yeah, thank you, sir. This is round number 323. Whew. Anyway, I've had a tough night that had to do with, well, you know, you open a bottle of champagne. Yeah, champagne. And, you know, it's so good. The better the champagne, the more like fruit juice you think it is. And you drink a little bit, and next thing you know, you got through a whole couple of bottles. And what? Yeah, that's right. It's like an angel peed in my mouth. That's exactly what it was like. So, so anyway, on round number 323, I'm going to front load the show with gloating, and then we're going to get to some of the rest of the show. Gloating because every single one of my picks was on. Not saying much because I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of picks on this card because a lot were don't cares. Some of the people, Hooker, Dan the Hangman Hooker, Thompson, some of these guys actually who were not cares and now healthily moved to cares. But it was a decent card. I expected to go into it that there would be a lot of, as Kid Nate says, sads. There weren't a lot of sads. There were some high moments. So anyway, let's get to it. Even with the tongue. First of all, before we get to it, I want to get to the suitcase thing because this is going to be a recurring theme during the show. If you got no patience for this, go take a piss, get a beer, come back. I'm going to go to the suitcase thing because I think I don't think I made the point. The point was in Pulp Fiction, they had the suitcase. They were chasing the suitcase all over. It was a suitcase that Samuel L. Jackson, was willing to, you know, die for it to get. We don't know what's in it from beginning of the movie to end. It just glows. It's a device that Tarantino stole from some great Hong Kong action flick, and it's been used by others as well. And I've come up with this as an analog, as an analogy for humans and human interaction. You know, I am well aware that my suitcase, at first glance, you know, unless I'm walking down the street smiling, I go to work dressed in expensive suits, the finer things in life. You know, but I still notice that when people walk by me on the street, people who are not dressed half as well as I am, they'll cross the street. I'm perfectly okay with it. Not like that guy who wrote the piece for the New Yorker called Whistling Mozart, where his black cat felt like he had to set white folks at ease by whistling Mozart so they wouldn't feel threatened. You know, fuck that, man. Life is too short. I'm walking around with my own suitcase. I embody a suitcase. We all embody these suitcases. I'm well aware that 215 pounds, you know, with my hair the way it is, suit or no suit, that, you know, it just makes it's a smart move for them. Look, he doesn't look like he can't fight. Cross the fucking street. That's it, whatever. I was in San Francisco, $800 Brooks Brothers overcoat, which I got for free. That's the only reason I mentioned how much it would cost, because I got it for free. When I was doing Code magazine, anytime I was on TV, wearing this stuff would be for free. So the outside of the suitcase, somebody might see me and go, wow, you know, that's, well, just got, oh, well, in San Francisco, they think you're homeless. Even with an $800 coat, they cross the street. I understand how suitcases work. You look at the suitcase, you go, that suitcase has got really nice, big, juicy titties. I could fall in love with a suitcase like that. Could you? Because you get the suitcase home and you're like, oh, and at first you don't insist. It's like the devil's bullets. You don't insist that the suitcase open itself. You don't even care about opening the suitcase. You're looking at the handle. You look at the leather finish. You're looking at all this stuff connected to the outside of the suitcase, and you forget that there's an inside. But the suitcase demands, what's inside the suitcase demands being paid attention to, like Willie Loman. Attention must be paid inside the suitcase. And you open up the suitcase. Now I'm going to personalize it and say that the interior of my suitcase, the dog just, he waits for me to do the show, and now he's sitting right here. You don't believe me? Look at him. Look at him. Look at now he's looking outside. All right? I've been sitting here getting this show ready for like the last 40 fucking minutes. Look at him. Look at him. Anyway, so I'm aware of the fact that inside my suitcase might be an overriding interest in outre sexual practices, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, literature, music, and a few other things. I don't try to sell what's inside my suitcase. Yeah, you read what I've written. All of what could be in my suitcase is there. There are no surprises about the inside of my suitcase. The exterior is coincident with the interior, all right? So now if you don't care about the inside of the suitcase, you'd be like, oh my God, there's a big giant titties. Oh my God, he's driving a Rolls Royce. I gotta get this suitcase home. But what's in the side of the suitcase, like the devil's bullets, you can't keep the devil's bullets in the box, you know? You can't keep them in the box because they start calling to you, start whispering things to you. And you want to open the suitcase. The suitcase opens itself to show you itself. A buddy of mine, he had sex with this kind of quiet, mysterious girl. And one night, they'd been going out about a month. And one night she sat down and decided to tell him the secret of her. Her name was Kitty. I'm not guessing she watches the show. And he's telling me this story. I'm going, yeah, what was the secret of Kitty's? She takes me in her room, sits me down. And she goes, I want to tell you the secret of me. She opened up her suitcase. And I said, what was it? What was it? And he goes, this guy's got his PhD in philosophy. He's a professor. He goes, you know what? After the big buildup, I expected a lot. And inside the suitcase, it was just pretty commonplace observation. You know, she had correctly, or maybe not so correctly, had not figured out that part of her appeal was that inside her suitcase was a total cipher. Nobody could figure out, based on the exterior, what the interior was going to hold. And so they put on genius, spooky witch girl, quiet, all these things that had nothing to do with the fact that inside the suitcase, you know, it's like a Twinkie, a couple of strings, you know. So if you make the mistake of, you know, being fooled by the outside, you'll be damned by the inside. And if you make a mistake about what's on the inside, you'll get screwed by the outside. The idea is that I should be able to, like Superman, see through the suitcase. I see the exterior and the interior all as one thing. And that's what I'm able to do with UFC Fight Night 85. I saved it, right? I mean, when Kid Nate and I did the Care Don't Care preview and we got into the show, what did we say? You said that I said on my Facebook page, I said, this is the greatest number of don't cares ever on any card ever. I can go down the list right now. Lots of don't cares. You know, it doesn't mean that they're going to stay don't cares. Excuse me. It doesn't mean that they're going to stay don't cares, but there were don't cares up the ass. In actual fact, I'm not going to go out of my way to see this. I tell you right now how many don't cares I had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, no, 7, 8, 8, 9 don't cares on a 12-fight card. It means I only cared about 3 of the fights, which means I made 3 picks, and all those picks were right. It's not so much that my picks are right that matters. It's that my picks were so much more right than Kid Nate's picks. That's what matters. Because like I was talking about on the pirate ship that is the Sorrow Academy, it doesn't matter so much how many people you beat. What matters is how bad you make them feel about having beaten them. That's what matters. Because whenever there's a big guy pushing around a little guy, I'll be there, helping the big guy push around a little guy. Whenever the powerful are having at the powerless, I'll be there, helping asking if the powerful need anything else done. You understand? This is the way it works. But in any case, my ebullience right now is connected to, let's start at the top. I'm not going to start at the bottom of a card that is rife with don't cares. MAGNY-LOMBARD and Frank Mir. We both went into this with an expectation that, oh, this is going to be, you know, and I was feeling this kind of sad thing until one of you guys, the commenters, and I'm just going to read what you wrote. Let's see if I can find it. About how much dude gets paid. How much dude gets paid. And by dude, I'm talking about Frank Mir. We can call these guys Lausanne, where if I went up to even a lot of casual fans of MMA and said, Joe Lausanne, you don't have an image sensation. You know how you know when you're a world traveler, when somebody can say to you, Caracas, and right away you can smell the street, you can see the people, you identify certain geographical things. I've not been to Caracas, so I can't do that. If I say Joe Lausanne, maybe you kind of get an idea. Maybe you're seeing the ears. If you're not a casual fan, you know who Joe Lausanne is. At one point, they said in Hollywood, the #1 film who made more money than any actor in the history of movies was fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is like back in the 90s. No single actor had made more money. He was subsequently eclipsed by the black Michael Caine, also known as Samuel L. Jackson, who made more money. And the mantle passes from Peter. But you look, it's like, how the fuck is this guy making this money? It's not, it's a combination. Frank Mir has found a sweet spot of fights that are interested, that he wins, that he gets subsequently well paid for. So if you look at it, he's pretty much the guy. I can't find the comment that was texting me, but he's pretty much averaging $400,000 a fight, according to this guy's figures. I haven't sat down with the figures because I'm not so strong in math. $400,000 a fight. The guys like MMA Harrison Ford, he fights once a year. Harrison Ford was like, I'll make a movie a year. That's it. I thought I was going to be doing woodworking and lifting weights, which is what he used to do. Now he's probably looking for stuff, glasses and hemorrhoid H or whatever, preparation H, whatever old people do. Go ahead, say it. I gave you the straight line. Just say it. Old people, Eugene, you should know. Yeah, okay. So Frank Mir, I was going into this thing feeling like it was a they shoot horses, don't they moment. And then I started to find out, oh, Frank Mir, are you kidding? Are you fucking kidding me? Frank Mir could work 4 months out of the year and make $400,000 a year, and the rest of the time do what? Come on. You're not training fucking 12 months out of the year. The guy, I mean, he's on a black belt schedule, kind of wanders in. And so then I don't feel so bad. And then I figure, okay, well, maybe they know this is actually, they're putting some skin in the game here. Yeah, it's a fight in Australia. So yeah, MAGNY-LOMBARD has to be on the card. But, there's a chance that MAGNY-LOMBARD could lose his fight. Well, we all knew if MAGNY-LOMBARD loses the fight, how was he going to lose a fight? He was going to lose a fight on the ground. That's typically, even though his ground record, much like Alistair Overeem and Czech Congo, these guys seem to have, they're educable. They seem to be paying attention to the ground game, and they're getting out of stuff. In other words, I don't have to worry about this. I'll pay attention to this, and that's good. So predictably, Frank Mir is trying to take him down, and he gets fucking clipped. When? What do you mean when? Did you blink? Are you in the bathroom? The bathroom, as we say back home. You in the bathroom? No, you blinked. Because inside of what we call the first round, 3 minutes and 1 second, he was knocked the fuck out. And it was one of those especially hard tasting knockouts where, of course, it's become a signature for MAGNY-LOMBARD, but usually MAGNY-LOMBARD does a badass thing where he knocks the guy out and turns and walks away without looking back at all or hesitating. This is MMA. It's a little bit different kickboxing, you know, and you're not quite sure what the ref is going to do. You might have to walk back. So, you know, he kind of knocks him down and stands over him and goes, he's done, and walks up. And this is after a press conference without a lot of, you know, the weigh-in, without a lot of smack talk. They did the whole thing where they show up dressed alike, and then they, oh my God, and let me take off the shirt. And it was good feeling, good vibe. We're working together, you know. It's late shift, you and me, buddy. Let's try to make some money here. Knocks him the fuck out. I haven't seen the who got paid what. Oh, here we go. Hunt got a bonus. Let me see if I can figure out who got paid who got paid what. See, I have to close every other window, otherwise I would find this. I know that Hunt earned the evening's other $50,000 performance award for walk-off knockout of Frank Mir. I don't know what the total by the numbers. Let's see if that does it. I can't really read this without my glasses. Yeah, it's come to that. That's what old people do. But anyway, I'm not seeing any. It doesn't matter. Frank Mir walks away. You know, there's one guy at home, and that guy is Wes Sims going, what? Wait, what? You know, I mean, Frank Mir has gotten into that weird, we're gonna call it the Hoffa. You know, it's that Hall of Fame status where he's been a reliable, productive guy. He's had decent management since he's getting $400,000 a fight. He's got a name. I mean, when was the last time he threatened for the belt? And he's not even thinking about that. He's like, he's got that Randy Couture without the baggage status, you know? It's like, man, the guy right and regular as rain. He probably got 400 grand for this fight. He's a happy guy. He's a team player. He's handsome enough. He's doing the games and all that other. Hey, this loss doesn't hurt him, you know, because you know why it doesn't hurt him? Because we all know we're seeing a twilight of Frank Mir. If any of you see Frank Mir fighting another 5 years, raise your hand. 4 years, raise your hand. I'm not seeing him going beyond 3 years. I'm going to be aggressive and get the over under at 3 years. And Mark Hunt, man, the guy's a perennial favorite. This was a prime example of Frank Mir at 41 of what MMAARP could do. Now, despite my hesitancy to like the fight from the beginning because of the sad potential, the reality of it was this wasn't a bad fight for a first-round knockout. All right? I mean, we've seen some first-round knockouts that haven't been that great and made you feel bad. Whatever that was between Shamrock and Gracie, if it made you feel good, I'd like you to explain why. You know, because it didn't feel good to me. Frank Mir and Mark Hunt, that feels good. Mark Hunt's a tough SOB. He's a gamer in his upper 30s. You know, this is a prime example of what could happen. These guys, they showed up, they showed out. They're not that nice to look at with their shirts on, but that's not why I'm there. Not Muscle Beach. So going back in time, so I'm ecstatic because I know when that fight ends, I know what it means. It means I can spend all of Knuckle Up around 323 chortling and laughing and chortling. And, you know, it reminds me of, I played Scrabble with somebody who was like a Scrabble expert. And they're like, yes, you might know MMA, but, you know, you eat right. I don't care if you're a writer or not. You're not beating me in Scrabble, especially you haven't played since you were 12 years old. I'm going to smoke you. And I beat them by like 5 points. And of course, I start Sorrow Academy style. I was like, man, how long you been playing this game? Gee, I must have got awful lucky to beat you by only 5 points without even half-ass trying on 3 triple word scores like caca. You know, caca is in the Scrabble dictionary. Who imagined that me, the award-winning journalist, would win with words like caca? Can you believe it? And then the person was actually like, started to get a little put out. And because I don't have a good radar for this kind of stuff, and also because I'm on the pirate ship called Sorrow Academy, I started lacing it even harder. And then suddenly, you know, from like this, you know, little spider sense section of your brain, you said, stop it, Eugene, stop it. Because all of a sudden you can see the person's pupils are like, fucking ga bing, and they're like really fucking serious. And then the portion of my brain that goes, "Use up, buddy." I start looking around for like sharp objects. Hey, I know a guy who checked into a hotel, had his eye stabbed out. Stabbed out. He's at the front desk checking in. Some guy comes to the front desk next to him. Situational awareness. What? Next to him, guy takes a pen. Everybody figures the sign. He turns and goes, yeah. You know how I know this? Because I used to work with a guy who had his eye shot out by his brother with a BB gun. And he was apparently, there's an eye ward in the hospital, and he was sharing a room with a guy who was like, I just checked into a hotel. Fuck it, I was just checking into a hotel. God damn it. Now I got a glass eye. Motherfuck, it's terrible. I had my same job. My boss gets a call from the cops. We picked up your husband. Picked up my husband. What are you talking about? You picked up my husband. We found him walking down the street with substantial eye damage. Eye damage? Yes, he yanked his eyeball out. She goes to the hospital, finds out her husband, honey, why did you yank your eye? There was a devil in my eye. God says if your eye offends you, pluck it out. That's how she discovered the hard way that her husband was bipolar. Don't fuck with people too much if they've got problems, you know. So anyway, so I'm chortling now. Frank Mir is down for, you know, and Frank Mir looked very reasonable on the ground. He's like, yeah, there was no bluster it up. It's like, hey, man, whatever. $40,000 is what you get. Some days you feel like a nut, some days you don't. In other words, this doesn't diminish the star of a Mir. And similarly, it doesn't really do much to burnish your already high brand for a MIR-HUNT. How can you feel bad about this? Old guys went in, old guys left. Somebody got knocked out. You know, did Mir look like he lost a couple of stairs? Why he would so doggedly, I don't know when they let him know about this fight, but why he would so doggedly pursue a takedown, well, I guess everybody knew he was going to do that because he didn't want to end up where he was at 3 minutes and 1 second. Boom. So now going back in time, I can't really capture what had to be a Clockwork Orange-esque slow dawning horror for Kid Nate as we moved through this win. That fuck Eugene was like 100% on. Man, how? He's just never going to stop. Because right before that, I picked Neil Magny over Hector Lombard. Round number 3, it made it the whole, and Lombard was fucking him up, but the first couple of rounds, right? I mean, I don't know anybody who didn't have him on the first round. This is the thing. These guys come out strong, but the big question always is, and if people don't raise this, if they do, they don't know what they're talking about. The big question is, what happens when a guy gets busted with steroids, stops taking steroids so he doesn't get busted for steroids anymore? You know, what's the psycho monograph of a longtime steroid user who's suddenly off of steroids? What happens? And the answer there is multifold, because I've been through it. Let me tell you what happened my first cycle. My first cycle was the worst cycle, because all of the pitfalls and all of the pratfalls that are connected to it, you have no idea. You don't know. You don't know. So you're taking it, you go, okay, I have an 8-week cycle. What am I going to do? Well, the first week, I'll take 1 cc. Well, what about the second week? Well, that was all right. I'll take another cc. You're charting it now. The third week, now maybe I'll take 2 cc's. Now you've done this before. You've set it out before. You've got the whole 8-week cycle planned. But somehow into the third week, what happens? You know, you forget that it's got a psychoactive component. So the third week, you become one of those guys who shouldn't take drugs at all. You're like, well, you know, 2 cc's, this barely feels like it's doing anything. 2 cc's, why, you know, I mean, that's for smaller guys. And then at week number 5, your intramuscular syringe, you're having to like take 2 of them together because you've gone well over the 4 cc's. Now you're taking 60. You're taking super high amounts, even though your muscle receptor sites back up. And then rather than have a slow taper, you look in the little box and you realize, oh shit, now I'm in week 7. I took everything and I don't have enough to taper off. So you cruise into week 8 like this, and then you stop taking the steroids cold turkey. You mix in Novadex or Clomid or some anti-estrogen, some HCG to bring your testicles back. It's made from the urine of pregnant women. Look it up, HCG. I feel like Tyrone Biggins. Everybody knows, boys and girls, that you can get drugs from a man named Martinez. Well, in case he wasn't Martinez, he was Greek, the guy I was getting it from. But anyway, so then you have this huge drop off, and all of the bad parts of steroids happens because your body now is no longer having externally introduced male sex hormone, and it's already producing, you know, way too much estrogen. So you're trying to get this even level, and you're an emotional wreck. I'm watching Scrooge with Bill Murray. I'm sobbing at the TV. I'm dating some woman there, and I'm thinking, you know, well, me and her should probably settle down. Oh, what about her crazy ex-husband and the fact that she's bipolar and that the two of you have only known each other for 3 weeks and that she's in AA and an alcoholic and all these things, and she's got 2 kids and this is you who you're going to marry? Yes, the steroids tell you. And so this was a long way around saying the physical part is the visible part, but the invisible part is equally as noticeable as the physical part if you're spending any time around this person. Like the guys who are calling me on Thursday night, Friday night, trying to get some steroids for the weekend because they have a hot date Friday night and they're concerned about their ability to get it up, crying, or alternatively, the guys whose houses you go by to pick something up or to drop something off and they're sitting there like, oh, what are you doing? Take that gun out of your mouth. Well, I'm depressed. Oh, you're depressed. You're depressed. That's because you have a gun in your mouth. It's a chicken and egg thing. Am I depressed because I have a gun in my mouth, or do I have a gun in my mouth because I'm depressed? Who knows? So the issue with a guy, Hector Lombard, former performance-enhancing drug user, is not so much what's been happening to him in training, because they say, you know, this whole idea of having natural bodybuilding shows where somebody has to be natural for a year, it exerts an influence beyond a year of cessation of usage, right? You can stop using it for over, and it does physical things that, you know. So what about the emotional thing? Well, you know, the emotional mind thing is more damaging than anything. It was already hard for this guy to make it out of the first round already, because he's got this musculature that has to be fed. It grows faster than the supporting vascular network. So you have hundreds of enemies, you know, huge delts, pecs needing to be fed. That's fine if you just stand around. It's just standing around like this, doing this kind of stuff, you know, or professional wrestling where you're jawing and then jumping off and stuff and letting gravity do the work. It's another thing when you have to, unless you're a track runner, you got to dig deep if you're on. When I say on, I mean steroids. You got to dig deep into the cardio. Get that cardio working for you, or you're going to be fuck it. Like Sorrell says, fuck it. Not fuck, he says fuck it. I had no idea there were that many syllables in it, but apparently it's fuck it. So you will be fucking. So Lombard goes in, he brings it. I mean, all of us who train MMA realize it's a function of time. You know, it's a function of time. If you're in a street fight, I can dog it in a street fight for fucking 60 seconds. The average person, the average man is not going to be able to just forget about the fighting part, stand in one place and swing his arms vigorously for 60 seconds without having a drop off in performance. You're not. Yeah, you can't do it. You just wait. And Magny chose to wait. He waited. Well, he had no choice. He was getting fucked up the first round. Yeah, you know. But what amazed me again, and the information that I got from this again, was that wrestlers, they just don't. I mean, you do know the guy was doing jiu-jitsu, right? You know, he's taking the back, and then you got that there's this thing called Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I go to my kids' wrestling practice, and inevitably a couple of heavyweights come over and goes, you do jiu-jitsu, huh? Yeah. Because I'd like to come over and try your little jiu-jitsu. See if it was. I said, we could do it now. I'll tell you, if you don't mind rolling against me in my underwear, you know, let it never be said, man, because the game doesn't stop when I'm on my back with your little weird sporting rules, okay? So Magny, who nobody saw. Now, in all fairness, I don't know if Kid Nate's pick was Magny or not. I know we diverged. I don't remember where we diverged. I think we did pick a Hunt, both of us. He may have picked Magny, but we're going back in time. Remember, this is like time's arrow, so we're actually going back in time. So his slow dawning horror and my slow awakening glee, we're in reverse. So we're going back through it. But after Magny beat the hell out of Lombard, I was feeling pretty good. Magny said it best, and he said, I don't care how many steroids he's taking. Magny's had a pretty good run, and this is marked down as a stumble for Hector Lombard. You know, where is Hector Lombard now? Hector Lombard is back where Hector Lombard could and should have been to begin with. It's just Phantom Toll Booth, baby. You know, like I was talking to somebody who was texting me this week, one of you guys, he's like, I want you to fight with some urgency. Or maybe it was a commenter. Urgency was the word. Urgency. I don't ever feel like I've seen Lombard fight with urgency. With agency, yes. Not urgency. Different. You know? I mean, like your job depends on it. You know, people like, at one point, Amber Lynn. Amber's a porn star. Used to go out with a friend of mine who's the head of the Hells Angels in San Jose, Steve Tossin. He was shot at a Hells Angels funeral. Long story. But he was dating Amber Lynn for a while. And Amber Lynn had this video, and you know, she had a lot of videos, but in one, this was an old style. It was filmed on film. And so Ginger Lynn was actually asking her, how are you making it? You know, when they do these wraparound stories at it. And she goes, I'm making it by doing a lot of what I do really best, what I do really well. Fucking and sucking. And then it was this whole montage with Amber Lynn. And I, you know, I start to think urgency, there's probably some formula. Urgency lengthens your career because people who fight with urgency will perforce fight interesting fights. I love Gegard Mousasi, but if you want to compare Mousasi's career to a fighter who fights with urgency, who's not nearly as talented, you know, I guarantee you've been excited and can remember more of the latter and less of the former. You know, this is why the legacy of a GSP is so mixed. There were two GSPs. There was an early GSP and a latter day GSP. The latter day GSP, the guy with the expensive car and fine furs and fine finery, that's not a guy who's fighting with urgency. That's a guy who's doing a job. Yeah, he still liked it. He still could connect with how he got there, but he was still doing a job. So, okay, so going back into so Magny wins, and I'm beside myself. You know, Jake Matthews and Johnny Case, I didn't really care about the fight. And I'm not going to talk about I will talk about some of the cares that move from don't care to care. And I'm going to have to say, I'm not going to go through the whole card because I screwed up the timing. The kids are going to come by in a few minutes. Yeah, we're going to go out and have, you know, father time. It'd be nice. Well, at least me and two of the kids, the ones who are talking to me. Steve Bossy against James Tahuna. This is the fight that I think seals the deal going backwards in time. Yeah, and Antonio Carlos Jr. I mean, there were good other fights here. I don't have the time because I want to get to Nazis as well. So, but let's go to Steve Bossy. Now, we didn't think, or Kid Nate didn't think it was possible that, you know, hockey great, you know, known associate Steve Bossy would have any purchase at all. He goes, it's not the Kid Nate said it's not you don't have the jerseys, you don't have the ice and the skates, you know, you don't have that kind of stuff. And James Tahuna is a verifiable badass. He got a bad bounce as of late, but you know, but he's still a bona fide badass. And I called it for Bossy. I said, all right, you picked Tahuna. I'll take Bossy. I feel perfectly okay with that because I remember who was that cat who was singing for Black Flag? Skateboarder guy, Mike Vallely. Mike Vallely had some show where he was meeting guys and fighting them because Mike Vallely's claim to fame was he's a skateboarder, but he has that video where he knocks out these kind of four fraternity guys. And then he was singing for Black Flag and had become Greg Ginn's kind of like attack dog, and he being used by Greg Ginn to fire Chavo Pederast, also known as Ron Reyes, from the band mid-show. I don't know. It's a catastrophe. I don't know how that stuff ended up where it ended up or why. They're all insane. However, Mike Vallely did the show where he fought a hockey enforcer. And I remember when I interviewed Ty Domi for the Fight Book, these guys, he goes, look, you MMA guys, how often do you fight? Okay, boxers, how often are you fighting? You realize if you're a hockey enforcer, you know how many hockey games we play? That means I'm fighting every night. And he goes, the psychological drop-off from these guys is really high, incredibly high. Because it's a tough fucking job that nobody understands, So they've got technique and they've got toughness, and this is what made the UFC great in the earlier days. And I have to say, actually, we didn't see a lot of it in this first round with Tahuna and Bossy, because it was fucking 52 seconds. But it was a presence of mind. I mean, those guys, when Ty Domi was talking about getting into bar fights with guys, and he would go, I grab by the collar, I put my head down, and all I know is I have to join my fist. And I know where my other fist is. And I know based on where it is in the collar that his head is very close to it. So he tucks his chin, holds his head down like this, holds the sleeve, and then he's a banger, 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 banger until the guy stops moving. That simple. But when he's telling me this story about it, he's telling me about being in bars and, football players coming up to him, threatening him, and getting into fights and rolling down the stairs and getting outside the bar. Now he's made more money as a businessman. He's a successful businessman. Where you could see him getting heated again and getting into it. There's a certain look. Yeah, you love hockey. But if you've been playing hockey, you've probably been playing since you were like 10 years old. So the game is less important than the finer points of the game. And enforcement and hockey is as fine a point in that game as you're going to get. Make no mistake about it. So anyway, so now I'm 3 up in terms of cares. And there were other fights that were sort of cares, like Beck Rollins. I think I cared about. I don't remember if I cared enough to make a pick or not. So I'm not going to say now that I picked Beck Rollins. I got the top 3. I did pick Juban, but I just don't remember Kid Nate picked Riley. But it was a great fight as well. Handsome man Juban, that should be his name. Daniel Hooker, Dan the Hangman. This was a guillotine choke. Great. Yeah, he's moved from my stomach is killing me. He's moved from a don't care to a don't care. But see, the problem is when you get these local heroes who show out because they've got the seats for their mother, their high school teacher, their girlfriend, they're showing everybody. But a lot of times it's not, you have a Brian Ebersole, yeah, it translated because he was a personality that rose above. But these guys, they'll be there when we get back to Australia, but you won't see them there any other place. And keep in mind, this fight, given the weird time, it was for Australia. It wasn't for us. I woke up to the announcements. I had to watch them post facto. Anyway, Ren Nakai, I didn't care about this fight. I think Kid Nate cared because of the cheesecake stuff that the unlikely Ren Nakai has been involved with. Swims, I don't know, Japanese porn weirdness. I saw one photo. I was like, I don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. No research for Eugene about Ren Nakai. Whatever fetish thing, whatever you got to do to pay the bills, I just don't need to be involved. So I may have cared, but I didn't make a pick there. And Andrade and Walsh didn't care. And didn't care. Pretty much, if you see a don't care and it goes 3 rounds, it's got to be a hell of a 3 rounds. A 3-round unanimous decision you don't get from a don't care. That's not going to move a don't care to a care. Sorry. And Ross Pearson, I said, I don't care about Ross Pearson. He's one of those fighters that's gotten to the point. I said, I asked honestly, do you care about Ross Pearson? There's no ceiling the ceiling is out of his reach at this point. Out of his reach. Gone. What does that mean? Ceiling is gone. The floor, however, is there, but he's operating just enough. I mean, this is what's great about this sport. You learn exactly who it is that you are and what you're made of. Exactly. Exactly. No question about it. You know, I'm a B- student. Is anybody talking about Pearson challenging? Maybe he gets a call in the Phantom Toll Booth. We have a word now for somebody who's beyond Major Tom, who's been 2001 Space Odyssey, and the cord has been cut, and you're floating out there, and you're never coming back. Kid Nate suggested, I shot it down at the time, but the more I've been thinking about it, Mr. Rodriguez in New Mexico gave me the tip-off. He goes, man, it's good. It's good. Darkstar. And he goes, when you get around to naming it, let me tell you who's the first that's been dark-starred. Well, a lot of people have been dark-starred, but very specifically, Clay Guida. This guy, Mr. Rodriguez picked Clay Guida, where there are other people who have been dark-starred much more thoroughly than Clay Guida. And it doesn't mean when you get fired at the UFC and go fight in Bellator. Matt Mitrione is not dark-starred. Matt Mitrione is even not at this point Phantom Toll Booth. Not at all. He's in the new Matt Mitrione is now big fish, small pond, baby. Everything he does in Bellator will be something that people care about. Well, you know, for a while at least. Ross Pearson is just he's not quite dark-starred yet, but he's bench deep in the Phantom Toll Booth. It happens. And it's going to happen more. Not to him, but to more of the fighters you know now. All right, so you go back to Damian Brown. I'm going to take the last few minutes here to talk about what everybody's been talking about, which is the Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor. I remember somebody had said at one point that their father had said to them, I got to straighten my leg. I always knew you would fail, but never quite so spectacularly. Now, you know, I discovered after the Knuckle Up where we talked about true believers that Conor McGregor was probably a true believer. I was shocked. I thought he was a cynical opportunist. The difference is he really believed that stuff. You got to have a positive world outlook. But he really believed he was going to beat Nate Diaz, and he in his mind was right. And he said, "I'm gonna think about it. I gotta think about what I want to do here, and then do it." Well, apparently, thinking about it, what they decided, and I'm not as angry as it might seem. Somebody texted me and they said, "I'll just read you the text." And he was like, "What do you think about this?" Let's see if I can find it. What do you think about? Oh God, I got a lot of text. Oh, here we go. And he said, "Well, I'll paraphrase it. Is what do you think about this Diaz-McGregor matchup?" And I said, well. And I listed the people who it fucked. It fucks Frankie Edgar. It fucks RDA. It fucks Jose Aldo. It fucks the UFC. No. I said it fucks you and me. Who does it fuck more thoroughly? It fucks more thoroughly Frankie Edgar, who doesn't have a clock at home that runs backwards. This is a major fucking drag. Well, what do you think about them vacating the belt? They've forced guys to take away. When Jose Aldo hurt his foot the second time or whatever body part he hurt, his rib, whatever, they, put that shit in action, right? TJ Dillish, interim champ. We're going to unify. Okay. But on the one hand, it's the craven cash move. On the other hand, based on some of the stuff that was said post facto fighto, I believe it is the fight that's most calling out to him. Because he's saying that stuff that guys in the Lost Battalion say. He's like, oh, my energy was bad, my plan was bad, I went into it, I didn't count on this. If I have to adjust to do, he thinks it's an issue of getting the mix right. The key to beating Nate Diaz is getting the mix right. Can you look at the screen right now while I make the universal sign of jerking off? Yeah, that's what it is. This fight, this soon, Nate, of course, should take it. Or better yet, what Nate would say is, you know, I'm busy. Why don't you fight the other Billy Goat Gruff? Why don't you fight Nick just for the fun of it, for shits and giggles? We got the same style. It's what the world will want to see. I mean, people might get kind of cranky. Frankie Edgar is going to be cranky unless it's Frankie Edgar, but no matter what. But Frankie Edgar is close to being Sean Shirk. It's too dangerous just to casually be put on there. That's a good sign, and it's a bad sign. What should he be doing in the interim? Fight other dangerous guys? That would help, but it's dangerous. Fight guys that are less dangerous. That could help, but it won't help. It could hurt more than it might help, because you fight an unremarkable fight and people start saying stuff like, oh, he doesn't move the needle, which is what they said about Nate, which was aggressively untrue, the bald one. So it would be completely 100% crass, corporate, terrible if he were a cynical opportunist. It would also be understandable. But we can see now that he is a true believer. And the true believer thing means that all of those excuses he came up post facto fighto with Nate, he really believes that he can hang out in the park, work on and make adjustments and get back in there. And that's why they're doing it again, from his point of view. It's like, okay, I'll make $1 million, but I'm close to, I can keep the same weight. I can give myself more preparation. I can train at that weight. I could be fine. Let these other bums fight, do some other fights. Let Jose Aldo fight. You know, I let him go up and weight and fight. I don't know what. I can't help you. Right now, I need to focus. I got to get this. I got to get this out of my head. So he's proceeding like a true believer, getting this out of my head. That's what he's doing, getting it out of my head. Okay, get it out of your head. And they're thinking, well, I can make adjustments around Nate because we know that Nate's not going to make any adjustments that are fairly significant. He's going to fight very much the same fight. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You do realize that shit about him preparing for, which I shot, I was pushing, pimping as well. Oh, he's always preparing for a triathlon. It's not like he just came off the couch. You know that wasn't true, right? It's not so much that I lie, but that I say things that don't end up coming true. In this case, say things that I later discovered were actually not true. Why? I'm telling you now. There's one of those guys who was, baby, I fucked your sister. How could you do that? Do what? How could you fuck my sister? Hey, look, you lied to me. I'm telling you now. At that point, it ceases being a lie. I don't want to get into that. Like, I'm not getting into the Israel and the Palestine thing. I'm not doing that again. Or Ireland and the 6 counties, and I'm not getting into that. The troubles. So, the problem is, you say, well, we're back in the same position. McG has nothing to, if he loses to Nate again, what has he fucking really lost? We now know his psycho monograph is that of a true believer. He loses to Nate again. He loses to Nate again, and he's got real fucking problems. Because clearly it's important to his head that he not lose. You know, have you seen those guys in fights? Yeah, me in my first MMA fight. Knocked out at the end of the round, came back the second round, tried to grapple a guy, got choked. I should have just fucking said, hey, man, no mas, baby. What do you, it was a mistake. I got to get back in there. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. However, of the 3 doors, Lady and Tiger style, it's the place that makes the most amount of sense in the space that he's in. He fights Edgar. drops a weight that he's uncomfortable with. Essentially, you know, Nate saying you're fighting midgets, knocking out midgets. He clearly shows himself to be comfortable at 169, 170. He goes back down to 145, featherweight, and he gets smoked by Edgar, which is highly fucking likely. Edgar is not strong enough to carry the mantle. Edgar is not making the bookings. Edgar is still thinking this is a sport. Yeah, but buddy, it's sports entertainment. Okay? Jose Aldo, this guy's been 10-year reign. He's performed guaranteed. Hoffa, Hall of Fame. So he goes back and he fights Jose Aldo, beats him. People don't care. He already beat him. He loses to him, gone. So now we have 3 doors, 2 tigers. As it happens, the cynical opportunist, the bald one, the true believer, McG, have common cause here. Different reasons, same result. Of course, Nate makes sense. Of course, Nate makes sense. How about this? How about me calling this right now? The lead up to the fight, somehow the lead up to this fight, the fight at UFC 200, right? The lead up to the fight involves a typical smack talk and then watch it. Somehow in that process, the lead up to the fight, also what happens? Nick, suspension, null and void, has cleared the fight again. Nate, going up to the fight, magically gets hurt. Twists an ankle, hurts a rib, bruises something. Nate, this is Nate, somehow can't fight. Nick scoots in there. I'm gonna take, you know, and you know when this happens that you will be beyond yourself, inside yourself with fight fan glee. Oh my God, Nick Diaz. Now, does McG know this? No, I don't think he does, because he's a true fucking believer. And the problem with true believers is that they're here, you know? He adjusts really super well. His situational awareness is great, but loss puts you in a strange and uncomfortable place. However, he is thinking straight enough to know that this is the door that's likeliest to have a lady behind it. Lots of money, you know, upside, downside, none. Except we now know the downside is significant because it's his head. It's like the steroids we started talking about earlier on the show. It's the head game, baby, the skull game. So what happens with McG and that thing over the next few months, and you got to realize, you want to blame this on somebody, blame it on RDA. Because he is presently Major Tom as well. Do you care who else he fights in this division? His foot's getting better over the next few months. What? And Brazilians typically don't like to see him. Unless they've got specific beef or not really enjoying fighting other Brazilians. So the likelihood of him dropping down to fight Jose Aldo, why would he do that? Why? So you need to think secondary, tertiary, you know, when McG loses to a Diaz, and I don't know which Diaz it'll be that he loses to, but when he loses to a Diaz, you know, you will have a fundamentally different fighter. And I didn't know this until recently. You'll have a fundamentally different fighter than you had than you had 2 months ago. And it doesn't matter. He can lose the weight to go back down to featherweight. He can go back and fight RDA, but it's still another guy. It's still another guy. It's a guy who's got this thing in his head. Like Dream Crusher Sorrell said, the things that break, the things you break when you lose is sometimes never fixed. I didn't think it was possible. It seemed like his awareness was so good that he was playing the game so well. Man, you can get ahead of yourself. Like when Hitler froze up. Providence going to rearm, you know, going to violate the Treaty of Versailles. At any one of those points, if Chamberlain, anybody had given him a little pushback, he would have folded. But Providence gave him a sign. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Let's attack the Soviet Union. Great. Early successes. Great. Fuck it. What about the weather? Fuck the weather. What about Napoleon in the weather? Fuck Napoleon in the weather. Bog down Stalingrad. Begin the massive retreat. There you go. You think that 1945? You think that 1945 that people thought that when the war ended, that's when they got the news that the war ended. They knew the war was going to end well before 1945. Well before. Because when you get a true believer and Providence doesn't answer their call, they don't know what the fuck to do. They don't know and the fact that he allowed himself to be talked into this is an indication to me that I mean, when you, it's like that line from the Clint Eastwood movie. When a man with a 45 meets a man with a rifle, the man with a 45 is a dead man. When a true believer meets a cynical opportunist, the true believer is a dead man. Hence the Trump wins over Ted Cruz and the Marco Rubios. You know, hence now Honda is suddenly healthy again. Right? I always put my money on the cynical opportunist. Always. Because you can do business with them. True believers, unreliable. Unreliable. So watch everything. Everything that McG does over the next few months. The press conference, watch him. Watch him. And watch what I called. Yeah, Diaz will fight. It won't be the same Diaz that fought before. You know? Nick is not going to take any fight from Nate. They're brothers. They love each other. But at the same time, you know, these guys are about the MONEY. And so is a Baldwin. And when a cynical opportunist meets a true believer, the true believer is going to get screwed. And what better way to get screwed than this screwing? Because, you know, a McG with his head gone is a malleable McG. And a malleable McG is not talking about making $20 million a fight because he doesn't believe he deserves it yet. Again, sort of, ever more. So that's the end of the show. I went a little bit over. I guess this is round 323. Excuse me. I'll get it right in the intro, which I'll write a new one. But thank you all 26 of you for sticking. You guys are early adopters. It'll be up on the page tomorrow. Later on this week, we got the Care Don't Care preview and If I Did It, because we got the April 10th matchups coming up, and so on and so forth. Anyway, also, if you're in Seattle or Portland, April 2nd or 3rd, Oxbow is playing, and we will put you on the guest list. If you text me, we got a fight quiz to make sure you're not gaming the system. But as usual, fighters and fight fans getting every Oxbow show for free, and we got 4 of them in April. 4 of them in April. Sadly, one of them is on the same night as DC and John Jones, but I'm gonna get a live hookup so I can watch it from the stage. Yeah, that's how dedicated I am to the prospect of musical art. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Knuckle Up, round number 323. We'll see you next week. Look what you made me do!